Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. The United Nations has confirmed that a vehicle of its military observers was targeted along the Pakistani side of the line of control on Friday. A deputy spokesman for the United Nations Secretary General said the incident is being investigated. Pakistan has said that Indian troops deliberately opened fire on the UN military observers when they were on their way to meet the victims of the Indian firing. The observers who remained unhurt were evacuated by the Pakistan Army. The United Nations Security Council has extended the mandate of the team monitoring Taliban-related sanctions in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, the Afghan Interior Ministry said 2 people have been killed in a Taliban landmine blast in the Helmand province. Earlier, 5 rockets hit the Bagram airfield, which houses U.S. troops in the Parvan province. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has blamed Russia for the cyber attack on dozens of U.S. federal agencies and companies. In an interview, Pompeo said that the attack was pretty clearly tied to Moscow. Russia has already denied any involvement in the attack. India has become the second nation to surpass 10 million coronavirus cases after the United States. Meanwhile, the U.S. has approved Moderna as the second vaccine for the emergency use as the country's deaths exceed 313,000. Pakistan has registered nearly 3,200 new cases and 87 fatalities overnight, with the death toll crossing 9,200. Globally, the virus has claimed over 1.6 million lives and infected more than 75.5 million people so far. And in cricket, Australia beat India by 8 wickets in the first cricket test at Adelaide Oval to take a 1-0 lead in the 4-match series. Josh Hazlewood took 5 wickets for 8 runs. Earlier, India were skittled for 36, their lowest inning scores in 88 years of Test cricket. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. The United Nations has confirmed that a vehicle of its military observers was targeted along the Pakistani side of the line of control on Friday. A deputy spokesman for the United Nations Secretary General said the incident is being investigated. Pakistan has said that the Indian troops deliberately opened fire on the UN military observers when they were on their way to meet the victims of the Indian firing. The observers who remained unhurt were evacuated by the Pakistan Army. In a statement, the media wing of the Pakistan Army said that the attack was deliberate since the United Nations vehicles are clearly recognizable even from long distances due to their distinct make and type. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Office has summoned an Indian diplomat to protest against the targeting of UN military observers. The Foreign Office said that the attack is a grave violation of the UN Charter. It said that the attack is a new coercive and reckless Indian ploy to hinder the observers' activity in the area. The United Nations Security Council has extended a mandate of the team monitoring the Taliban-related sanctions in Afghanistan. The UN body has extended the mandate for 12 months, emphasizing its serious concerns about the ongoing violence. The 15-member council unanimously adopted the resolution. The council welcomed recent efforts in the peace process, facilitated by the Afghan government and the Taliban. Meanwhile, 2 people have been killed and 4 others wounded in a line-manned blast in the southern Helmand province. Interior Ministry spokesperson blamed the Taliban for the attack in the Gishk district. The ministry said that the Taliban carried out 35 suicide attacks and more than 500 mine explosions in the last 3 months. Earlier, 5 rockets have hit a major U.S. airbase in the Parvan province. No casualties were reported. At least 15 people have been killed in a suicide attack on a rally in Somalia's semi-autonomous state of Galmudug. In a statement, the state's internal security ministry said that the dead includes 3 senior military officials, soldiers, and civilians. The ministry said Somalia's Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble was on his way to address the rally. It said hundreds of residents and security personnel were present at the stadium to welcome Roble. Al-Qaeda-allied Al-Shabaab group has claimed responsibility for the attack, saying that it was targeting the Prime Minister. The group has been fighting for more than a decade to topple Mogadishu's central government and establish its own rule. At least 8 people have been killed in a gun attack on convoy of a local ruler in northern Nigeria. Local media said that the attack targeted the local emir as he was traveling to the Zamfara state from the federal capital, Abuja. It said that the emir didn't sustain any injuries during the attack. It said that the driver of the emir, 2 palace guards, and 3 police escorts were among those killed. 9 patients have died after an oxygen machine caused a fire in a private hospital in Turkey's Gaziantep province. The governor's office said that the incident took place in the COVID-19 intensive care unit of the hospital. It said that the fire was caused by an oxygen therapy machine used in the treatment of COVID-19 patients. The governor's office added that 14 others receiving treatment in the unit have been referred to nearby hospitals. It said that the investigation has been launched into the deadly incident. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and German Chancellor Angela Merkel have discussed bilateral ties. The Turkish presidency said in a statement that both leaders have virtually talked about Turkey and the European Union relationship amid Eastern Mediterranean dispute. Erdogan said Istanbul wants a new open page along with its relations with the EU. He reiterated his readiness for exploratory talks with Greece. Erdogan thanked Merkel for her constructive contributions and efforts for better Turkey-EU relations. Earlier, EU leaders met in Brussels and decided to draw up a list of sanctions against Turkey. Farmers' agitation against the 3 contentious farm laws has entered the 24th day, but the impasse between the government and the farmers' union continues. The farmer unions have rejected Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's comments linking their protests to the opposition. They said that the Prime Minister has reduced himself to a party leader. Congress said Modi is misleading farmers by calling them Khalistani and demanded an apology. Prime Minister said that the laws are a step towards making farmers' lives better and called for farmers to hold further talks. However, the farmers say nothing short of complete annulment of the 3 laws will be accepted. They have indicated to celebrate Republicans' Day at the sit-in. In the United Kingdom, the Commons Brexit Select Committee has expressed concerns over the government's readiness for leaving the European Union. Chair of the committee, Hilary Benn, said that the significant concerns remain with just 7 days to end of the transition period. Benn said that at this stage, the government must be ready to implement contingency plans to mitigate the efforts of any disruption. She warned that borders must not be compromised in case of no agreement on policy. The committee stresses on the government to ensure continued access to law enforcement tools, including a European arrest warrant. The government said that it will still be able to cooperate with EU security and police counterparts using Interpol and other forums. India has become the second nation to surpass 10 million coronavirus cases after the United States. Globally, the virus has claimed over 1.6 million lives and infected more than 75.5 million people so far. More in this report.
Just as the world took the sigh of relief over the gradual authorizations and procurements of the COVID-19 vaccine almost after a year, the surging records, mutant strains, politicization of the issue, new lockdowns, and mystery clusters have hampered the celebrations. With more than 249,000 infections in a day, US has hit another record of the highest daily cases. However, with the new vaccine approval, millions of doses of Moderna vaccine are expected to be added to countries' rollout. Colombia has inked deals with pharmaceutical companies Pfizer and AstraZeneca to procure 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Meanwhile, Brazil has also received a new shipment of 2 million doses of CoronaVac vaccine from the Chinese laboratory Sinovac.
What we have seen is an increase in the number of cases, hospitalizations, and unfortunately number of deaths, which can be avoided with the vaccine. We must vaccinate and vaccinate as soon as possible. Only then will we change this trajectory of these events. Without the vaccines, 700 people will continue to die every day in our country.
In Europe, Italy is set to impose a nationwide lockdown for Christmas and New Year holiday as government tries to prevent fresh surge in the cases. UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has called a crisis meeting over the newly found COVID-19 strain spreading rapidly in southeast England. Meanwhile, World Health Organization says it has secured almost 2 billion vaccine doses, allowing poor countries to get vaccinated in first half of next year. The WHO has also called on nations to include refugees and migrants in their COVID-19 response plans.
It shows that people living on the streets and in asylum centers are less likely to seek care if they have symptoms of COVID-19. Of those who reported not seeking health care, 35% said it was because of financial constraints, and a further 22% said it was fear of deportation. More than half of those surveyed said that COVID has caused them depression, worry, anxiety, and loneliness.
China says it will vaccinate all key groups over the winter and spring period. Meanwhile, South Korea reported over 1,000 coronavirus cases for fourth straight day for first time since the start of pandemic.
Chile's President Sebastián Piñera has been slapped with a $3,500 fine after his maskless selfie with a bystander became viral. Health officials filed a self-complaint against the president for non-compliance with the use of a mask in a public place. President Piñera has apologized and said everyone must observe the rules to avoid infection. The selfie debacle is not the first Piñera photo-based gaffe. Earlier, he had sparked an outrage while partying at a night of political protests in Santiago. Virus is on the rise again in Chile, resulting in strict countermeasures by the health officials. In Pakistan, 87 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to 9,250. Health officials reported over 3,000 new infections overnight as the number of active cases remain above 40,000 in the country. The health ministry said out of over 454,000 countrywide cases, more than 404,000 people have recovered. The ministry said over 202,000 cases have been detected in the province of Sindh, while the Punjab has reported nearly 130,000 cases so far. A soldier from Russia's International Mine Action Center has died in a mine explosion in the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Russian Defense Ministry said that the soldier was clearing the area from the mines when the explosion occurred in the city of Shusha. In a statement, the ministry said the soldier got wounded, however succumbed to his injuries in the hospital later. Earlier, a mine blast in the Skuzvan region of the Upper Karabakh killed one Azerbaijani soldier and injured a Russian soldier. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has blamed Russia for the cyber attack on dozens of U.S. federal agencies and companies. In an interview, Pompeo said that the attack was pretty clearly tied to Moscow. Pompeo is the first member of the Trump administration to publicly link the Kremlin to the cyber attack. The hacking used by a variety of sophisticated tools to infiltrate dozens of government and private systems. Intelligence agencies have told Congress that they believe that it was carried out by the SVR, an elite Russian intelligence agency. Meanwhile, Russia has already denied any involvement in the attack. The United States has issued a fresh Venezuela-related sanctions over what it calls fraudulent elections. The Treasury Department said that it has sanctioned a biometrics company and 2 individuals for providing material support to President Nicolas Maduro. The sanctions block their assets in the United States and prohibit Americans from interacting with them. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said that the polls show Maduro's disregard for democratic aspirations of the Venezuelans. In a statement, Mnuchin reaffirmed Washington's commitment to target Maduro's regime and those supporting it. Meanwhile, Maduro has slammed U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo for the sanctions, calling them stupid. President Donald Trump has signed a legislation to delist Chinese companies off U.S. stock exchanges. The White House says Chinese companies must adhere to Washington's auditing standards. The Holding Foreign Companies Accountable Act bars securities of foreign companies from being listed on any U.S. exchange if they fail to comply with Public Accounting Board's audits for 3 years in a row. Earlier, the U.S.-backed list over 60 Chinese firms, including the country's drone maker DJI Technology. China top chip maker SMIC was also among those blacklisted companies. In a statement, the Commerce Department said the step was taken to protect the U.S. national security. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The U.S. Supreme Court has dismissed a lawsuit challenging President Donald Trump's census immigration plan. The plan aimed to exclude illegal immigrants in the country from population count. The 6-3 ruling has handed a short-term victory to Trump in his persuasion of hardline immigrant policies, but the justices left open the possibility of a fresh litigation if his administration completes the plan. The lawsuit tabled by American Civil Liberties Union argued that Trump's plan would dilute the political clout of states with larger numbers of such immigrants. In the United States military, there are soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, but now there are guardians too. The country has named its Space Force members as guardians. The Space Force is responsible for a range of space-based U.S. military capabilities. Vice President Mike Pence made the announcement promoting a free-form association with superhero movie franchise Guardians of the Galaxy. He said that the Guardians will be defending the nation for generations to come.
It is my honor, on behalf of the President of the United States, to announce that henceforth, the men and women of the United States Space Force will be known as Guardians. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians will be defending our nation for generations to come.
China's Space Agency has handed over lunar samples to Chinese Academy of Sciences for further research. With over 80 guests, a handover ceremony was held at China National Space Administration in Beijing. China's Vice Premier Liu He delivered a speech to mark the historic event. He stressed further efforts in research on samples to achieve more scientific results for a better understanding of the universe. The samples were then transferred to the National Astronomical Observatory for further studies. The sealed samples will be unsealed under a vacuum condition in China's first lunar sample. According to the initial measurement, the Chang'e 5 probe collected about 1,731 grams of lunar samples. In Fiji, torrential rains and hurricane winds triggered by a cyclone YASA have destroyed hundreds of houses. State media showed widespread flooding, blocking roads and flattening crops in the Pacific country. The Category 5 cyclone has killed 2 people since making landfall in the northern island of Livu on Thursday. Severe weather conditions have adversely affected relief efforts by aid groups. Waves of more than 3 meters have prevented ships from leaving the capital, Suva. Fiji declared a state of natural disaster, ordering its population of 1 million people to seek shelter. The storm has now weakened to a Category 2. In Germany, as COVID-19 outbreaks in elderly care homes left thousands dead, many shuttered their doors to seeing their levels. But the innovative solutions of offering some solace to the elderly residents, more in this report.
Elderly people have been hit particularly hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, they are more vulnerable to falling prey to coronavirus. Many have faced months of isolation. However, in Cologne, Germany, a virtual reality headset allowed 81-year-old Annalise Richmond to escape the confines of her 4 walls and take a tour of her cathedral.
Just to see it and have a look around, it was great. Once I can get out and about again, I'll go to the cathedral and have a look. I don't think it will have changed much, but I'd like to go there.
Facing the same challenges, another care home in the city of Speyer opted to replace its annual Christmas party with an outdoor Christmas market, complete with sausages, waffles, and a tombola. While it won't replace the traditional get-together with family members, it serves a safe way to create a festive atmosphere.
Also normalerweise ist es bei uns.
Normally, we have a lovely Christmas party in the chapel and the cafeteria with all the relatives. But we can do that now, so we have looked for an alternative to bring a bit of an Advent atmosphere.
The head of Germany's Ethics Council has warned that isolation and loneliness severely impacts the health of elderly people. Germany's elderly care home residents are first in the queue for the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine against COVID-19. Until then, care homes are doing their best to keep residents cheerful.
A three-day winter NADAAM fair featuring Mongolian horse racing has started in the Xinhua city of northern China. The event has been held at a local horse ranch with hundreds of photographers and tourists from across the country. The term NADAAM means entertainment and recreation. As the name of the festival suggests, it features ethnic Mongolian sporting events such as archery, horsing, and wrestling. It also presented traditional equestrian and costume affairs, in addition to the excellent Khumi and folk dance performances. The fair opened with a melodious Mongolian long tune. Exciting horse racing and camel racing were held following the opening ceremony. The attendants are attending the traditional event in the severe cold of -30 degrees Celsius. This is the third time the event is being held in the region. U.S. auto giant Tesla expected to see an unprecedented trade ahead of its S&P 500 debut. Electric car maker stocks worth $80 billion changed hands by the end of the last session. Climbing 2% before the bell, the company's shares were among the most actively traded stocks across the U.S. exchanges. Tesla is said to become the most valuable company ever admitted to Wall Street's main benchmark. Elon Musk-owned automaker would account for 1% of the index. Its shares have surged about 60% since its debut in S&P 500 was announced in mid-November. In cricket, Australia beat India by 8 wickets in the first cricket test at Adelaide Oval to take a 1-0 lead in the 4-match series. India were skittled for 36, their lowest innings score in 88 years of test cricket. None of India's much-vaunted batsmen, including captain Virat Kohli, managed to get into double figures as wickets fell at regular intervals. Mohammad Shami was forced to retire hurt following a crunching blow on the arm from Pat Cummins. India started day 3 of the day-night test on 9 for 1 and with a 62-run lead. But the team was smashed after an exhibition of fast bowling by Josh Hazlewood, who took 5 wickets, and Pat Cummins taking 4 wickets. Australian skipper Tim Paine was named man of the match, scoring an unbeaten 73 in the first innings. Former Test cricketer Mohammad Wasim has replaced Misbah-ul-Haq as Pakistan's chief cricketer. Cricket board said that he is appointed till 2023 World Cup in India. The decision comes ahead of South Africa's tour of Pakistan next month. Wasim pledged to select a competent team to fulfill Pakistan's long-term ambitions in the upcoming cricket. He added Pakistan has an immense talent and cricket pool. Misbah had dual roles before vacating the chief selector's post to focus on his job as Pakistan's head coach. In tennis, the Australian Open will start from the February of 8th next year after a delay of 3 weeks. The first Grand Slam of 2021 was originally scheduled to take place in Melbourne from January 18th to the 31st. Organizers confirmed that the dates, after being locked in drawn-out negotiations with local government over health measures, players are scheduled to arrive in Melbourne on the 15th of January, undergoing a 14-day quarantine period. Victoria State government said that the players would be tested for COVID-19 prior to departure. It said that they would be able to train for 5 hours a day during quarantine. The qualifying events for the tournament would take place in Doha for men and in Dubai for women. In boxing, WBA super middleweight champion Callum Smith and challenger Canelo Alvarez weighed right ahead of their title fight today. Burton Smith tipped the scales at the exact super middleweight class limit of 168 pounds. The Mexican Alvarez also weighed in at exactly the same 168 pounds. Undefeated in 27 fights, Britain's 30-year-old Smith enjoys a height advantage at 6'3". Today's fight at the Alamodome in San Antonio, Texas, would be the first time Alvarez or Smith fight since 2019. It's now time to take a look at the weather around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at indus.news.